Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank our colleagues. I'm in the 40th ward. We don't have Shotspotter in our ward. So in some regard, I speak out of privilege to say how I feel about Shotspotter. But I lost a brother to gun violence, and growing up in the city in different neighborhoods, and I know a number of us have. How many of you have lived in your house and heard a shooting from inside your house? How many of y'all could tell us exactly where the shot happened based on what that sounds like? Right? If any of us were in a position where we got shot and we were on a corner somewhere bleeding out, I think we'd want to know that everything possible was being done, which does require technology. So when we talk to some of our colleagues, especially those where they're seeing the most amount of gun violence and they're speaking to that truth, it's something we need to listen to, and I don't think we have fully. The reason why I say that is I want to start there with the conversation. When we talk about Shotspotter specifically, it is a little bit separate from that conversation, right? Shotspotter had a whole bunch of talk tracks about why it was so effective. That the talk tracks were so effective, we've heard members repeating them here. First, it was, hey, this is preventing gunshots from happening. Hey, this is going to lead to more people being apprehended or more convictions happening. This is going to lead to more safety. Even their own data, as they were proven left and right that that was not the case, they had to walk all that back and change their talk track. And then it was, no, it's not any of those things, but we have to make sure that there is response when a shot occurs so someone could be there in time to potentially save a life. Now, I appreciate that that last point was actually the most honest and the one we should have started with as a city. And this is prior to Mayor Johnson, prior to Mayor Lightfoot, this is under Rahm, right? Had we had the conversation on what we actually want to occur, we might have gotten somewhere. If we were saying, hey, we want to make sure that first response is as quick as possible, that our ambulances and first responders can get there when a shot occurs, then we can have that conversation. But that's not how it was pitched. It was pitched as, you want the city to be safer? Let's dump $10 million a year into this technology. I promise it'll get it done. Now, the reason why I disagree a little bit about going through committee and through legislative process to kind of fix that is we literally had a commissioner for technology out here that we know is an expert, and we couldn't even get that right on the first vote. So some of this stuff, when we talk about technology, isn't about votes or legislation. It's about data and a process. I'm not saying we don't need to have any technology. I want to make sure we have the best technology working. We need to know what accountability actually looks like, because here's the thing. Shotspotter may let you know when a shot's happening. They are not in control of the response time. The response time is CPD and the other first responders getting there on time. When it comes to evidence, that's not a Shotspotter thing. That's officers finding evidence on the ground. When it goes to conviction, that's not a Shotspotter thing. That's our officers doing their job, our detectives doing their job to do it right. So the tool that we have for Shotspotter or any other tool for shots being heard could also be used for accountability on officers. Are they getting there on time? Are they responding? Out of all the shots that we're hearing, how many were confirmed? How many of them lead to cases? How many lead to convictions? We could have gotten all that data from this software and technology. No one ever thought to ask of it when it first came about, because Ron was like, you know what, we're going to do something real easy to say we did for public safety. Rather than having a full competitive bid process to find out what the best software actually is. So we need to have the full conversation. I think why people are in their, why it's visceral for some, is because we have not had a proactive conversation on what a post-Shotspotter Chicago looks like. What is the technology that we're doing? Is there a competitive bid for a process? How are we talking about what's going to be next? There have been zero conversations with members of this council about what that looks like. So we should actually convene the kind of working group that has members where you see the most amount of gun violence and folks where you don't see any Shotspotter, to figure out what are the metrics we all want to see and the technology we want to actually invest in. I think we can actually do that and get there. We just haven't, which is why folks are frustrated. So yes, I believe we need technology to fix things. We need to make sure that first responders get to where they need to as quick as possible, because it can save lives. That is not a preventative measure by any means. So one can invest in root causes to make our city safer and in the things that are reactive to also make sure that we can save lives. It is possible, but we need the intentionality of this body and this administration to actually have the conversation, because time is running out before we have to figure out what we need to do. And we're only going to get more tense and frustrated until we do. So I have my commitment for any colleagues that want to convene that group to do so we can have the conversation about what we want to see out of technology so we actually get it right.